Hello, everybody. Welcome back. This week, we wanted to talk a little bit about the importance of our environment, how it affects us, the person we want to be. And also, I'm not just talking about like people and places and things that we're surrounded by, but also like your actual physical environment. So, like where you work, where you sleep, where you socialize, all of the effects that that can have on you as a person. Because I think I've realized as someone who has hoarded a lot growing up, hoarded an incredible amount. I am still currently surrounded by things that I had in my bedroom when I was like 15, which is not great. Well, it's because my parents just gave me everything when I moved out, and I was like, okay, you don't want me to come back then. Yeah.
One day you'll
Yeah, exactly.
find
Can't
used
complain
to
that I
it.
don't come back now. But yes, yeah, I have a lot of stuff, like physical stuff around me, and I've noticed how much that affects my, not only my productivity, but like, and this is going to sound a little woo woo, but like how things flow inside my brain and also outside of my brain. And I've also noticed the effect of my like environment in terms of like socially on the way I think and my like capabilities to dream. And I know that sounds like quite big, but I feel like when I'm surrounded by like big thinkers, people who not really like followed the normal path in life, I feel like I'm a lot more confident in my ideas. It's really weird. Like I don't feel like a weirdo for thinking that I could be the next Jay Shetty. You know what I mean? And I think it speaks very significantly to the importance about like being selective around what you surround yourself with and stuff. And I wanted to get your thoughts as well, because I feel like you have been a really good reminder to me on like the importance of your physical environment and how important that is for your like ability to work properly and be creative and ultimately like earn money and be happy. So what are your thoughts on your environment and the influence?
I think, yeah, there's so many different like ways you could interpret that. So your physical space, I found it really like important for me to again like keep a really clear space. Like I'm this in the same way, like things get cluttered. I think everyone can relate to getting messy rooms and cluttered space. And I never really used to pay attention to how that affected the way I worked, and just I don't know if I feel like it even affected like my stress levels and things, just having like mess around. And I never actually clocked that I did this, but I would always have to actually tidy the space around me before I could sit down and work. And I used to think that was me procrastinating and me just like avoiding doing that thing. But looking back, I've realized, no, that's genuinely because my mind can't focus unless things around me are like clean and clear and there's not like clutter everywhere. Because then my mind is just too, not that I'm like looking at it all, but I don't know, I just can't seem to focus if everything else around me is a mess and like not giving me that clear headspace. So that's something that I've noticed a lot, especially as someone that works from home. I feel like since the pandemic was when I started working from home and maybe noticing things like that a lot more, where I really had to think carefully about my workspace. And I tried very many different ways of working when I started working from home. There were times where I'd work from my bed, where I'd work from my sofa, when I'd work from an actual, what I try to create as an office. There were so many like different trials that I did to figure out what is going to help me just like be able to focus at home and be productive and get work done. And working in my bedroom, let me tell you, was the worst decision. Like I would get the worst night's sleep. I just had a very like broken sleep, and I think it took me a long time to actually fall asleep, because I think my mind was just so used to that being like the working space, so I couldn't switch off. So that really was the last time I've ever worked in my room, and I've always made it a point to make sure that like that is just purely the space for sleeping. And I've definitely read this, I think online or in books, where you should literally use your bedroom only for the purpose of sleeping and nothing else, because then your body is going to associate with, as soon as I'm in that room, I'm asleep, and it should really help with your sleep as well. So I've really tried to practice that a lot more. The only thing I'm struggling with now is because of the limited space in my flat and the fact that my second bedroom is just shocking, like Wi-Fi wise. Like I've had a struggle with trying to get the connection to work well in there. So I always end up working in my living room. But it does mean that I've noticed this actually a few times where, so I'll be at home all day, like working, doing my filming, my editing, like getting all my own stuff done, and I'll be doing all of that in the living room. So I film in the living room, I edit all my videos here, I do all my like admin, all my work is basically here, and I actually bought a desk to be able to work from my sofa, because this is just where the Wi-Fi is the strongest and it's the most space, so it just is a lot easier for me to work from here. But then I noticed, like, when Sonny would come home from work, and obviously he doesn't work from home. So when he comes home, this is his like relaxed place. So he finds it super easy to just turn the TV on and literally switch off from work. And I'd find myself like, I started doing this, not realizing why I was doing it, but I'd get really like irritated or like not be able to like focus on the TV, or just, I don't know, I just found myself really agitated at the thought of resting, and I couldn't physically rest or like switch my brain. And it took me a good few, I don't know, months, I would say, of doing that to actually realize it's because I do all my work from this exact same spot. So when I try to now just like chill out and watch a movie or do anything else that's like not work related from the same spot, my brain just doesn't let me. It takes me a while to actually like switch off from what I was doing before and then fully immerse myself in like relaxing and just taking my mind off it. But he does it so quickly. Like, it's literally as soon as he sits on the sofa, it's like he's gone. Like, that's his relaxed period of time. And it's so weird that now looking back at me and like how I really struggle to do that, it makes so much sense, because your body is just used to, or your brain is just used to using a certain part of it in that space. But it just goes to show like how much your environment actually affects like how your brain works and like how your body reacts to the stuff that you're doing in a particular space as well. So yeah, don't underestimate your physical environment and like where you're doing stuff, because I think it affects you more than you probably realize. And it definitely took me a long time to realize that it was affecting me, just like the fact that I was working here. And I still continue to do it because at the moment I just don't have another option, but it's something I'm more mindful of now. And it's something, I guess, when you're mindful of something and you're aware of it, it does help you actually, like, if you are getting irritable or you're just like something is like making you feel uneasy, at least that when you know that that's the issue, it just like your brain automatically feels a bit more okay with it. So that's the stage I'm in now. But have you ever felt like that, especially working from home and stuff? Because you used to work in your bedroom as well, right?
Yeah, I used to work in my bedroom. I used to film from my bedroom. I used to do a lot from my bedroom. And I think I want to emphasize what you just said in terms of like, I don't think I also quite realized how much of like my reactions were subconscious or like not active by me. Like, it wasn't me being like, oh, I am in the living room now, so I don't feel as productive. It was like you couldn't quite put your finger on why you just felt like complete crap.
It was just a shift in your, I don't know if it's your emotional state or like it just felt a shift in your body of like, okay, it's probably a little bit, I'm in this zone.
Yeah, it's probably a little bit of like fight or flight, right? And it's more of like your fight coming out because your brain doesn't know that you're like okay to chill out and like rest, I guess. But I think for me, what I struggled with, I was the exact same as you. I don't think I ever quite understood that maybe I was struggling with like building good habits, going to bed, waking up early, because I was doing so much from one room. And it was not even like a pleasant room to be in because, like I mentioned, I hoard a lot. So there's a lot of stuff around. We're in an Edinburgh 2-bedroom tenement flat. Like, I've got a standing desk in there with I did have a standing desk in there with a treadmill and a monitor. At one point we had a super king bed in there, which is, I genuinely just cannot remember how bad that was because that bed is so big. And I don't know if anyone listening has even noticed that I'm in like a different room. It's because our flatmate moved out and I've taken over our second room, and it's been so nice just mentally knowing that when I go into the bedroom, I don't have to do anything else but like make my bed and
It's
like
so
put my makeup
freeing,
away.
isn't it?
Yeah, it's so freeing. And you know what? I actually want to also touch on the fact that in this day and age, it's actually a bit of a luxury to have a room for a purpose. Like, as I said, we live in a small, like, 2-bedroom flat. We don't have like a dining room. We have a small kitchen. Our living room doubles up as Sam's office as well because he works from home from the living room. I obviously used to work and film from my bedroom, so I was literally spending like from my waking moment to my sleeping moment in that one room. And I think it's very easy. It's very easy for me to say now, like, oh yeah, find a space for each purpose of your life and like try and stick to that, because it's hard in this day and age. We can't afford like big places, and we can't afford to like separate our lives out so much. But I think something I tried to do while I was like working from my bedroom was like, on my good weeks, I did not do this every single week, but I tried to really put away like a workstation once I was done with it, especially with my 9 to 5. Like once I finished my 9 to 5 work, the laptop wasn't just left there to go to sleep, like the monitor. I put it away like so I didn't have to look at it.
Out of sight, out of mind.
Yeah, exactly. Well, honestly, that applies, I think, with this as well. So it's like, even if you're struggling to physically make separate space, try and separate it wherever it is that you do work and rest from as well. Because that definitely did help. Even the act of doing that, I don't know if the act of doing that mentally was like, for me, okaying myself to be like, okay, work time is over now. You can like think a bit
probably
more.
told your brain that, okay, the laptop's physically not visible, so that means it doesn't exist.
Yeah. But I also wanted to talk about people, because I think I've very much in the last few years not understood quite how impactful the people around you can be on like the decisions you make, and also the decisions you think are possible for you. And the only reason that's changed for me recently is because of my shift in like who I talk to on the daily. Like, I talk to people like you. I talk to people that I've met online that are doing crazy cool things that no one in my real actual life are doing. And that doesn't make people in my real actual life bad or uninspiring. It just means that, you know, I don't get that perspective of them from them. So why would I then think that things bigger than them are possible for me? So it's not to shame your current circle or shame your current environment. It's more to think like, okay, well, how can I audit the things that I'm doing on a daily basis and attribute those to like what my immediate circle are doing? And there probably is a link. And I wanted to talk about like how you change that, because it's difficult, like how you manually intervene into your environment.
What, and like remove people from your life?
Remove or add.
Bye now.
Like, how do you change up what you're
Yes.
surrounded by on a regular basis?
So I think for me, the easiest way that I've done that is because of the fact I'm chronically online, is changing my online space first. Because I think that is a second reality almost. I feel like what you consume online affects us way more than we actually think. I feel like people aren't not enough people are serious enough about this, and the idea that what you're consuming daily over and over again, and the type of people that you follow and what their opinions are and how they operate and the dramas that they get into and all this stuff that you're just like, all this information that you're downloading all day long has an effect on who you are. And it's just that third kind of space where you are influenced by like not just your physical space or your the people around you a lot of the time. So the people physically around me, and I guess like friendship circles are what we're talking about here, or even I guess I could have talked about work circles, but at this moment in time, I feel like even now, except for my management, I don't have like a work circle anymore as such, because I work for myself, really.
I feel like it's a lot more blended now.
Yeah, I guess so. And I guess my work circle, you could call the people that I associate with online, or I maybe like collaborate with, or people like that, which again, I've started to become so much more careful with how I deal with that side of things now, because I have realized that it's not only like you become, I don't want to say like you become a different person when you're around certain people, because you definitely still have like your own values and things that aren't going to shift no matter like who you're around, and you are still you. But I do think you can become influenced to think the way some other people think the more time you spend with them. So if people have like a glass half empty kind of mentality, no matter how half full your glass is, that will start to rub off on you. So I've become very careful with associating myself with people who do have that kind of victim mentality, or life is out to get them, or you know, like everything's always a drama and going wrong in their life. And I feel like that's very common for people, especially online, to be involved in like dramas and scandals and like things going wrong, and I don't know, like people attacking each other in this cancel culture and stuff. And I feel like maybe as someone that is quite public online, that's an extra element for me of like being wary of like the kind of people I associate with, and just making sure that like the people that I associate with are just kind of match my own values on what I want out of my life, and not trying to like gain things in a different way than I would, because I feel like in the social media world you do get all kinds of people really poking through, and yeah, just that you end up kind of meeting. So that side of things I've had to be very careful. But in my physical life, I guess when you're talking about family and stuff, in the last year, there's a lot of like changes that I've had to make, and decisions that I've made to ensure that I'm protecting my own peace and my own sanity, for that fact. So I think that's also something to be said for if you are trying to like improve your own life, and you are trying to make decisions that genuinely benefit you, and things that like, I feel like, I don't know if it's a cultural thing, but we're not really taught to listen to our own instincts, or listen to like what we want out of our life, and what's going to make us feel fulfilled, and what our definition of success is. I feel like it took me a really long time to sit down and think about, what does success mean to me as an individual versus what does it mean to everyone else? Because I feel like there is this general picture of, oh, okay, if I'm really wealthy, if I'm married, if I've got kids, if I'm seen in a certain way, that's what success means. But that's just like a version of it. It doesn't mean the same thing to everyone. But I've never really sat down with myself and thought about, okay, this is actually what it means for me to be successful, and how I want my life to be. And I think when you finally give your space to actually think about that, and then, you know, operate in a way that's gonna, you know, you've got these goals now, and then you're going to create those systems to make those goals a reality, you do really end up feeling very passionate about like having people around you that have that similar mindset, because you don't want anyone to like steer you off course. You don't want anyone in your way that's going to like hold you back. And as mean as that might sound, I feel like in general, you do have, if you've got places to go, and if you've got like high ambitions for yourself, you do have to be very careful with who you surround yourself with, because I keep seeing these like posts online of these TikToks, and these girls talking about how to spot if your friend is actually a frenemy, and like how your friends can be very what do you call it, like just like basically someone that's not actually on your side, where technically a friend should be. And so many people go through these experiences where they have these people super close to them, and they don't really have them close to them for any other reason other than they've known them for a long time, or they'll feel bad for removing them from their lives because they've just always been there. And I don't know, some people feel indebted to their friends for whatever reason. So they keep these people close, not realizing that those people are actually the most damaging to their own goals and where they want to get to in their life. Have you ever experienced that, having a frenemy?
Maybe not so much a frenemy, but literally as of going, I actually was not planning on bringing this up, but as of going self-employed,
Okay.
so obviously, like, it's a big change in my life, and it's been like a bit of a shock to people that I've told, and there are certain people who I would have expected to have, I don't know, said something either nice or encouraging, or actually just acknowledge the fact that I've done this, who have been completely silent. And in my head, I'm like, is that a frenemy? Because just as you were explaining what the frenemy was, because in my head I'm thinking, are you someone then that if I had talked through this decision making process of like, oh, I'm thinking about quitting my 9 to 5, are you someone that would have held me back from making that decision because of whatever, either a perspective on self-employment that you have, or a perspective on my own success compared to yours? Is that something that you would have stopped me from doing? And I've just now thinking like, oh, maybe I did have a couple of frenemies that have just come to light. But because like it also reminds me of, I literally posted on my TikTok this week about, I was watching, oh God, it's not Desperate Housewives, it's the Housewives of Beverly Hills this week. I have no idea why I'm watching it, don't ask me, but I've never watched it before, and one character, she's a person, she's a real person, is like, I think she's been sober for like a year. She's exercising a lot compared to her peers. And there's like a little group of housewives that the show centers on, and the rest of them are incessantly commenting about like how she's not drinking, and like she's working, like she's obsessed with exercise, like when is she just going to snap back to normal, like it's just a phase that she's going through. Yeah, and like I couldn't stop thinking about how her environment right now is trying to pull her back to the person that she was before she made these changes. And the person who's making all these changes, she keeps saying to the camera like, I'm doing it for my own mental health, like I feel better when I'm not drinking, I feel better when I'm exercising, she's literally saying the words, I respect myself more when I'm doing these things. And whatever drives changes in life, it's fine. Like, yes, she might be going through a crisis or whatever, but instead of asking why the changes are being made and encouraging the good ones, her environment is almost casting her out at the same time as like trying to pull her back down. And I was so shooketh, because like these are like super wealthy, like successful people, like successful businesswomen, and they still cannot stand, or they still cannot allow one of them to be doing just marginally better than the other one. And to be honest, the same applies to like the people in my life who have been a little bit quiet on me making this career move. I'm thinking like, why can't you just support, or why can't you say something?
Say well done.
Yeah, like why does it have to be silence? And that's why I think your environment is so important, because I was holding on to these people. Like I was making a lot of effort to keep them around me, keep them happy, keep them like, not that it wasn't like one, well, yeah, it was quite one way now that I think about it. But no, like I'm just now realizing live on the podcast how this environment has like formed itself. And now I'm thinking like, yeah, I definitely I think I did need to surround myself with people who would have not even just enabled me, but enabled bigger thinking. Like that's the thing you need to look out for in people. Like their ability to think big, and their ability to think past their own limitations, like their own personal limitations.
That's the thing, isn't it? I think there's two types of people in the world. The ones that will see you doing big things or wanting big things and be motivated and, you know, lift you up at the same time as wanting better for themselves. But then there's the other type of person that does not want to see you better than them, and they'll be happy with you until until it looks like you're becoming better than them, and then they'll kind of freak out and try and bring you back down, or just like cast you out and not really want to know you and not be there to support you, which is sad, but it's just process of elimination at the end of the day. Like, you just, as much as it sucks to like have people like that, at least now you know, like, don't take those red flags and still wave them. Like, you've got to actually like take action and, okay, now these are not the people that are, you know, I'm meant to take the next level with, because they ain't trying to meet me at that level. They're just trying to stay stuck down here. And that's such an annoying mentality for some people to have. It's like, you could grow with me. You could, you know, get that next level, or you could just be inspired, or, you know, motivate me. We can motivate each other. We can both reach that next level, and you can, you know, be a bit more open-minded. So say if these people that you're talking about are 9-to-5ers and they could never see themselves being self-employed, doesn't necessarily mean that you still can't like learn a lot from each other and still have a really good friendship, even if they decided that 9-to-5 is their thing and is what they want to do for the next 50 years of their life. But so many people are so like small-minded and just think that, oh, they can't handle the idea of their friends or the people around them like, you know, trying to get that next level. And maybe it comes down to insecurities in the sense that they can't see that for themselves. So they don't want that for anyone else around them.
Yeah, I think it is that. And I think it's important for me and also anyone listening, if you're thinking about your environment and you think, okay, the environment does not line up to like it doesn't even matter if who you currently are is who you currently are. Like, if you want to be someone different, if you want to make changes, if you want to be a better person, I think you need to align the environment with that. And I swear there's like some really cool like fable about a car, like a girl being handed a vintage car, and she goes to like a garage to get it valued, and the garage is like, it's £50, and then she goes to, maybe it's not a car, and she goes to a different place and they're like, oh, it's £100, but then she finds this like boutique vintage car auction house and they're valuing it at like 100 million. You know, you have to find the room that values you in the way you value you. It's not like everyone has a maximum value. You have to find the one that doesn't like reject you and try and keep you small. And I think it's like noticing those things, like noticing how people are trying to keep you small, noticing if you're being like questioned all the time, noticing if you feel like you're stuck, noticing if you feel like others are almost like stuck on you, and like changing from that and not holding on to it for both a sense of like friendship and like community, because I think those two elements keep you stuck in places that you don't need to be in for a long time, for fear of loneliness, I guess, and also for like being able to be the best version of yourself, because you have to give yourself the chance to do that, I think, in life.
Yeah, I think what's something that's like hard to actually follow, like it's nice to hear but hard to follow through on, is the idea that if just because someone doesn't value you as much as you feel like you are doesn't actually decrease your value. Because I feel like it's so easy to feel like, oh, well, they don't respect what I'm doing, or they don't think that I'm doing something good. So then you start questioning yourself and think, well, is it really that good then? Should I be making that move? And then it just plants doubts in your own mind, which is, again, why it's so important to get rid of people like that, because we can't help, like, as humans, especially if you value someone's opinion and you do, at that moment in time, think that they do want what's best for you, because otherwise you wouldn't be friends with them if you thought they were actually out to get you. But then when they do start planting those seeds of doubt, and then you start doubting yourself, and then that has a domino effect on, like, what you see for yourself, which is so dangerous, because then you end up being the person that self-sabotages because of those people around you that are planting those seeds. So yeah, you can't ever, like the little like metaphor, the fable that you mentioned, just because someone doesn't see the value doesn't mean that it decreases in value in any way.
And even on a practical sense, your environment and the people around you, they actually make your goals like a lot easier, especially if you know what they are. Like, if you know you want to be like a business owner and you want to be super active and fit and healthy, doing those things are 100,000 times easier if you're surrounded by people who are fit and healthy and have maybe a self-employed business owner lifestyle, compared to having a friend group of 9-to-5 workers who love to like drink and party every weekend. You know what I mean? Like there's nothing wrong with either group of people. It's more that if you want to do something, and we spoke about habits and like making them easy in a previous episode, right? Like your habits are easier if you make them easier, and making them easier, like to make them easier, you can surround yourself by people who do the same things as you or think the same way as you. Normalizing it. And there's a study, I'm sure there's a study done that I've literally spoken about in a YouTube video, where someone was like 57% more likely to be obese if they had an obese friend. Like 57% more likely to be obese if you had an obese friend.
What?
It's wild. And it just shows like psychologically the impact of your social surroundings on you is a lot more than you think, habit wise as well.
Is that because... That's great. I didn't know that. Wow. Wait, is that just because they just go out and eat a lot together?
Yeah, I guess it's
how does that
even... I think it's a combination of like, it's easier to do the things that lead you to you becoming obese, but it's also much more difficult to do the things that stop you from being obese. I think this, so scientists were like analyzing people who look like they have loads of self-control, but it turned out that they don't have that much self-control. They've just structured their lives in a way that's easier, and it doesn't require like willpower to just do the habits that they wanted to do. So I think it was like all about having a clear idea of who you want to be, and then structuring your life and your social circle and your physical environment in a way that like made that easier. But that is us for this week. Thank you so much for listening. And as always, please let us know how we can be better hosts. Leave us a little comment if you already think we are great hosts, on a rating on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. And leave us a comment on YouTube as well if you're watching on there. And thank you so much for listening, and we'll catch you next week. Bye.